So, welcome to our EM service. We're glad you're here. Our title for today is It's All About Jesus, out of Mark chapter 1. It's all about Jesus. Okay, so who watched the Super Bowl last week? Some of you were at our house watching it. Okay. This part of the room was at my house watching it. All right. So, who saw the commercials, the He Gets Us commercials on the Super Bowl? Yeah? Okay. Those were interesting. So, if you didn't watch it, I want you to actually pull out your phones right now. Don't go on other stuff. Okay, pull out your phones, go to YouTube or go to hegetsus.com. Hegetsus.com. That's their website. I was really fascinated by their commercials, so I did some research. You can go to YouTube and look at it right now. Just find one. Okay, they're super short, like 30 seconds long. I think the one that was on Super Bowl was the Jesus loves the people we hate. That was one. And then what was the other one? There's one about refugee. He was a refugee. Anyway, it's really fascinating. But you can look it up. Look at just look at the commercials. You can turn the sound on. It's okay. I'm doing it in the room because if I live stream it, that we can't do that right now. So you can look at one, find one. There's a ton. And it's their idea behind their organization is to make Jesus known and accessible to mainstream culture and society nowadays. So there's some really fascinating things that they are doing. I think they were their ads ran in the Grammys during the Grammys. There's a commercial, Super Bowl, lots of money, lots of controversy around it. I know there was people who were all that money could have gone to all the poor. It's true. It's true. And at the same time, something must be working because people are talking about it. So it's very fascinating. But I point that out because the idea behind what they're doing is that it's all about who? It's all about Jesus. He gets us, meaning Jesus gets us, knows what it's like to be one of us. He understands what it's like because he was one of us. And so last week the last 2 weeks we talked about Jesus. And we're going into this series about who is he? What has he done? Why is he important? That's why that commercial was interesting to me because that lines up with what we're talking about lately. Of who is he? What did he do? And why does what he did 2,000 years ago, how is that relevant to me today? To my issues, my worries, my concerns, the things that I wrestle with, the things that I face. It has everything to do with that because he knows. So here we are in the book of Mark. And again, it's pointing back to it's all about Jesus. If you don't remember anything from today, I want you to remember it's all about Jesus. Because truly, without him, we don't have anything. But with him, we have life. And so here we are in our passage today, Mark. Last week, we saw him in the book of Luke as a baby, fulfilling prophecy after prophecy, sign after sign. I think I said it was 1 in trillion, 13 trillions. Only one in that many trillion people can fit everything that he's done, can fulfill everything he's ever done. And only Jesus did that. That legitimizes him. He's not just some white dude on a painting in an old Sunday school room in the back corner of some Lutheran church somewhere. Okay, that's not who he is. He is a real, historical, living, breathing Son of God, Son of Man being. He is one of us. So here we are in Mark 1. He's grown up. Who here is 30 or over? Loud and proud. That's right, okay? Y'all, 30 is great. I think after I hit 30, I felt like I was in my skin because I'm finally the Ajumma that I've always been all my life, okay? But anyway, 30s is wonderful. But here we have Jesus at 30, okay? 30 is real young in our day and age. But 30 in that time wasn't because they died sooner, okay? So life expectancy wasn't very long. But here we are, Jesus, 30, okay? This is the beginning of his public ministry. For 30 years, he's been hidden, not doing any miracles, not released by God to do anything yet. And here we are at 30. This is Jesus, son of Joseph, carpenter dude, down the street. His life is now on the public arena, okay? So here we are in Mark 1, verses 1 and 3. Let's look at those passages, okay? Mark is writing his gospel. He starts like this. He's real straightforward. This is the good news about who? About Jesus. Not about Mark, Not about nobody else. This is about Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God. It's all about Jesus. It began just as the prophet Isaiah had written hundreds of years before. He said, look, you're going to know this guy is the Messiah because I'm sending my messenger ahead of him. He will be a voice shouting in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord's coming. Clear the road for him. There's 4 gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Mark's is, they think, one of the first ones to be written, okay? Now, he was the most straightforward. This is all about Jesus. And again, everything that happens to him fulfills hundreds of years of prophecy of like, you're going to know it's him. Because they're going to be this dude that comes out, he's going to be kind of crazy, and he's going to be like, Jesus is coming. And it will work, okay? And here we are, here we see in Mark this actually happening. Now, who's been to concert before? Concerts? Okay. XYZ, whatever maybe. So when you go to a concert, I have not been to a concert in so long, you guys. Okay, because I fall asleep before it's concert time now. But the point being, like, usually at a concert, they have opening, like, acts, right? Like, different, like, smaller musicians that come and they, like, do their thing. And, like, nobody actually comes on time, right? Everyone comes for the main person, the main band, the main group, whatever. But those opening acts or those opening people, what's their job? I mean, for them, they're trying to, like, hustle and make their, like, career too. But their job is to, like, hype the crowd. Get the crowd ready, excited, so that when the main person comes out, everyone's there. Everyone's excited. That small unknown actor exits stage left or whatever, and it's the main person's job, right? That's their job. Well, this messenger, that's his job. He's preparing the people for Jesus to come. In other words, without someone preparing the people, they wouldn't have been ready for Jesus. Why? Let's look. In Mark 1, verse 4 and 6, we see this passage. Okay, here we go. This messenger was John the Baptist. He was in the wilderness and preached that people should be baptized to show what? This is why they weren't ready. That they had repented of their sins and turned to God to be forgiven. All of Judea, all of Jerusalem, they came out to see and hear John. His clothes, he's interesting. Woven from camel's hair, he wore a leather belt, and he ate locusts and wild honey. Okay. I don't know why, but, these people, like, their lives, something about them, different. John the Baptist, this is his name. He is the opening act. He is the smaller, minor musician character coming out to set the stage. His job is what? What's a messenger's job? If you're a messenger, what's your job? Like in first grade, okay, back in the day, before there were phones, you know what we did? We used to write notes. Okay, not first grade, because I couldn't write very well then. Okay, like third grade, okay? Who remembers writing notes and you would, like, pass them, like, super, like, inconspicuously, but, like, all teachers know. Like, you pass it to your friend or you pass it to, like, the guy you have a crush on, okay? So you would write a note. Or, like, you would have a friend who would, like, can you, like, please tell that person this? And that person is the messenger. Now, if that person doesn't like what they're saying and they get mad at them, they're like, don't get mad at me. I'm just the messenger. It's not my message. I'm just the one delivering the message. Your job as the messenger is just to deliver the message. It's not your words. You're not the star of the show, but your job is to make that known. That was John the Baptist. He was different. He was interesting, okay? Like, he came from a priestly family. So in other words, in that time, he was like in the pastor's family, right? That's where he came from. And he had access to all of that, like all of the privilege that comes with that. But he chose to go out into the wilderness. He ate different. He looked different. He was everything different. Because he could not truly be the messenger God called him to be in the system he was born into. Most of us, if you and I are going to be ones who show people Jesus, most of us can't do it in the systems that we're in. It does take a different kind of character, a different kind of calling to then go and do what John the Baptist did. Who has ever been to a wedding Okay. Wedding. Weddings. More of them lately, post-COVID. Okay. Who's ever been in a wedding? No one? A couple of you? Okay. Sam, were you the best man for any wedding? Okay. we never know who's telling the truth. Okay, maybe he's all 7 of them. Okay. I have been a bridesmaid, I think actually 7 times over. Okay. And always, when you go to a wedding, there's bridesmaids, there's groomsmen, there's the best man, the maid of honor. Okay. What's the best man's job? What's his only job? Do not lose the rings. Okay? That's his only job. All right. But other than that, what's his other job? Okay. You know what the maid of honor's job is? What's the maid of honor's job? Make sure she show up. Okay? And make sure she's like calms down when she freaks out. What's the best man's job besides don't lose the rings? Make sure the grooms shows up, okay? And is okay and is on his feet and stable and that they're both going to make it to the wedding day. Okay, that's their job, is to help them not lose their brains and like be there. Is the best man's job to steal the bride? No, that is not the best man's job. That is what like 15 movies have been about, I'm sure, like in the last 20 years. But that is not the best man's job, is to steal the bride. If your best man steal your bride, you got a bad best friend and best man, right? That's not how it works. In the same way, John the Baptist is like the best man. Jesus is like the groom, and the people, the church, are the bride. Jesus wants his church. And John the Baptist, his job is to make that happen. Help them to connect. Help them to see and meet and understand each other. Is John's job to woo the bride to himself? No. But think about it. In our day and age, we have a lot of that, actually. A lot of that. We have celebrity pastors. Nothing against all of them, because I know that some of them are really doing amazing work as well. But we have that kind of culture, right? Like celebrity churches, celebrity pastors that woo these people with their big like production and all these things to what? It's supposed to be to Jesus. But is it always? Not always. As someone who stands in the front and does this, I can tell you how tempting it is to be like, when the message is good, be like, yeah, I worked so hard on that. That was so good. And then when you're like, I'm like, oh man, they were out partying too late last night. That's why, like whatever. It's so tempting to be like, it's all about me. Right? If this was you would do the same thing. It is very tempting because you and I, we are human. But every time that thought comes in, I'm like, oh, no, it cannot be. Why? Because it's all about Jesus. Our lives, everything we live for, it's all about Jesus. That's what it means to be a Christian. It's all about Jesus. You and I, it's not about you being less than. It's about you and I seeing ourselves rightly before God. Where do I stand before him? It's all about him. It's all about him. Here's Mark 1, verse 7 and 8. It says this. John had this announcement. He's the messenger. Message is important. Here's his message. Someone is coming who is greater than I am. So much greater that I'm not even worthy to untie the straps of his sandals. Back in that day, they didn't have Nikes, okay? They didn't have boots. They literally wore like leather straps on sandals, and they walked unpaved roads where donkeys would let their poop go, okay? Like, if you touch someone's feet in that culture, that is gross, okay? Like, that's how bad it was. But he's saying, I'm not even worthy to touch his poop-encrusted feet. I'm not worthy of that. That's who he is. I baptize you with water, but he will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. In other words, John the Baptist is like, don't follow me. Don't follow me. Y'all coming out to this river to come see me, it's not me. In other words, he's saying like, don't follow me. Don't like my Instagram post, whatever. It's not about me. It's about Jesus. There's someone else coming. Why? Because he understood. As humans, we long for that kind of figure that we can all follow and long for. I mean, that's why crazy things happen in our world. People like Hitler, he comes to power for a reason. People fall to it for a reason. We as human beings, we're so hungry for somebody who can give us this message that we're going to be better, we're going to be okay. But we don't need a celebrity. What we need is a savior. Someone who will save us from our own depravity, from our own brokenness, from our own trauma, from our own cycles of brokenness that we live in. Things that were done to us that we had no control over. That's what he came for, is to break those cycles, to give us freedom. In other words, it's all about Jesus. John was saying, don't follow me. I'm here to tell you, y'all need to come back to him. Y'all need to come back to him. In our world today, how often do we as a church point to Jesus? Let me ask you, as a Christian, how often, by your lifestyle, your choices, what you say, how does that point to Jesus? I know some of you live truly incredibly beautiful lives before God, that you make choices day in and day out that point to Jesus. I want you to think about it. In your life this last week, what did you do? What did you say that pointed to Jesus? Maybe nobody noticed. Doesn't matter. What did you do? What did you say? How did you live that pointed to Jesus? Now here we have in Mark. This is our last section, last verse. Mark 1:9-11, it says this. One day, Jesus came. One day. That's it. One day, he showed up. The man they've been waiting thousands of years for, he showed up. I say this often. People ask me a lot, like, how are you supposed to know if you meet the person you're supposed to be with forever? And all I say is, look, I don't have the answer for that. But what I can say is that all it takes is one day, truly. One day, somebody walks into your life. It could be a friend. It could be a coworker. It could be a boss. I'm not just talking about like your significant other. But one day, someone can walk into your life and change your life. A mentor figure, a pastor, a teacher, a coach. One person walks into your life and changes your life. Think about your own life. Think about the person that really moved in your life when you needed them to. When you were young, a teacher, somebody in your life that you're like, dang, my life literally changed direction because of that person. Maybe that person's in this room. I don't know. But like there are people in your life, right, who they came into your life and they changed the whole direction of your life. That's Jesus. But to like a bajillionth degree. He walks into our lives and he changes our lives. One day, Jesus came. If you have not experienced that yet, my friend, you are in a good place. Because one day, Jesus came can happen to you. Can happen to you. Anywhere. Anywhere. He can walk in and change your life. One day, he showed up, and John the Baptist baptized him. As Jesus came up out of the water, he saw the heavens splitting apart and the Holy Spirit descending like a dove. And a voice from heaven said, "You are my dearly loved Son, and you bring me great joy." Every other baptism, people were confessing their sins of like, man, I need Jesus. This time, Jesus gets baptized, and it's radically different. What does baptism symbolize? This is like a quick briefer. Some of you guys have and haven't experienced this. Baptism, when you go into the water and come back out, it's a symbol. It's like a wedding ring. Does the ring magically keep me married and in love with my husband? It does not, okay? But does it symbolize that I am with him, that I am taken? Yes, right? Okay, it's a symbol. It's a symbolic like thing, okay? Baptism is a symbolic thing. And as we go into the water, we are proclaiming, I am dead to my sins. And as we come up, I have new life in Christ. Just as Christ died and came to life, I die in him and have new life in him. It is that kind of symbolic, huge gesture. For a lot of churches, that is the beginning of your Christian life, is baptism. And so, Question is, why did he get baptized? If he's not a sinner, why did he get baptized? To show us that he is us. He is one of us. That although he is not a sinner, he identifies with us as sinners. So that as he dies and is resurrected, we have new life in him. This is so important. His ministry starts here. This is like the thesis statement to Jesus, like being like, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to set people free. I'm here to die so that you could have new life. That's what I'm here for. What did God say? Was he like, Jesus, good job. All right, get up. Let's do some work. Let's save people. Let's multiply people, like feed them. Let's do these things. Is that what he did? No. He said, this is my dearly loved son, whom I love, and he brings me great joy. When you and I say yes to Jesus, die with him, have new life in him, that's what God says to us. He's like, yes, this is my dearly loved daughter, my dearly loved son. You bring me great joy. That's the kind of God we serve. Not a God who's after what we do or what we say. That all follows. First, from knowing that we are dearly loved and we bring him great joy. Hold on to that, because that will be what's next week when we go into it, okay? But here's the thing. Let me remind you. What is this about today? It's all about Jesus. Now, the minute that Jesus shows up, whose job is done? John the Baptist, his job is done. His job is done because Jesus is now here. Imagine your whole life calling to be a messenger, prepare people for Jesus. He shows up and your work is done. But that's why he's a true messenger, because it wasn't about him. It was always about Jesus. Let me tell you, all of you in this room, most of you are adults, I hope and pray that we will continue to be in this church and grow and love Jesus together. But some of you in this room, you might move, go to college, go different places. Some of you will transition churches, whatever. Things will happen in life. I pray that wherever you go, let that be the standard that you hold, whoever it is you go with, like to church, to a pastor, to teachers. Look at their life. Is it about Jesus? Look at the people. Okay, nowadays, it's not even about church, because there's a whole generation who won't walk through a church ever, but they will find Jesus through TikTok. They will. That is happening. They will find Jesus through XYZ. That is happening in this world. But let me ask you, when you look at the people that you follow, does their life point to Jesus? Does your life point to Jesus? Because ultimately, it's all about Jesus. How many of you saw, I think it depends on what your algorithm tells you on your social media platforms, but how many of you have heard about the revival at Asbury University seminary going on this week? Okay, so there's a school out in Kentucky, okay? But it's a big seminary actually out there, and their university, it's a Christian college. And I went to a Christian college, so I know what it's like. But every week you have chapel. You went to CCU, right? That chapel, when you pretend like you're there and you try to get okay. But chapel. And you go there, and last Wednesday, the 8th, so a week and a half ago, they had a chapel like usual, and students just felt the need to stay and pray. And ever since then, there has been ongoing prayer and worship for the last 10, 12 days. I think it's still going on, actually. People going, being healed, being set free. What's interesting is that this revival, there's no lights, there's no production, there's no big name, there's nobody leading it. Different revivals happen in different ways, but this one is very interesting. And what they're saying is that it's spreading throughout college campuses throughout America. And I know for you and I, that might not be something that you've seen before. That was my upbringing in college. I saw a lot of those things often. And when I saw that on my social media, I was like, God is doing it again. Gen Z, he hears you. He sees you. The world tries to capture you away with lots of other things. But there are people who are hungry and saying, enough. This world, it's enough. I don't want this. I want something more. And it's found in Jesus. Go look on your TikTok. Now, later, I don't care. On your Instagram, type in Asbury Revival, Asbury. Okay? There is stuff going on in our country, in our world, among people your age who are seeking and hungry for God. Saying, I don't care about all of these things. All I want is Jesus. This is all I want. Every generation will experience Jesus. They will. Every generation has. Like the hippies, they had the Jesus movement. Like every generation, they had their thing where they're like, I'm done with this. I want Jesus. And Jesus showed up and captivated a whole generation for him. You guys, it is not over for us. He is moving among young people who are crying out for him. And that was my prayer, is that we would see that here in our church, in our city, in our world, experience his presence again. So let me ask you, do you know this Jesus? Do you know this Jesus? Follow this Jesus? Need this Jesus? If you have never, ever spoken to him, asked him into your life, did any of those things, all I pray is that there is hunger and curiosity over your life. You'd be like, why is she talking about Jesus every single week? I don't know. It's what the Lord is asking me to do, and so I'm here doing that. Because it's all about Jesus. we have been here for almost 4 years now. Some of you have literally grown up before my eyes. And it's beautiful to watch and see. But what I pray is that one day, when you're like 45, 50 years old, and you think back about church, you will not remember like Stacey and how cool she was. You'll remember like she was psycho, man, because she always talked about Jesus. She's so annoying. Like she's just always talking about Jesus and prayer and like why she like fed me and then she tricked me because she fed me and then she talked about Jesus again. Like why she do that kind of stuff? That's what I hope you see. That's what I hope you will experience when you look at our family of like they love Jesus and they are not perfect and they are some weird people, but they love Jesus and they want you to know him and they want you to experience him. Friends, I can give you anything in this world, but it will all fade away. The only thing I can give you is Jesus and tell you, I promise you, if you experience him and say yes to him in your life, you will never turn back. It will be hard. You will get dry sometimes. You might forget. But it's all about Jesus. And those of us who have said yes to him, let me ask you, does your life point to him? Does your life point to him? Does your heart sing when you experience his presence? That's what we want. That's what we want. Because it's all about Jesus. Can I have the praise team come up? A lot of us in this room, you're carrying hard, heavy things. Or maybe you're just carrying the burden of like everyday life. Like adulting, aging parents, a mortgage, I don't know, decisions about your future, going to college or not, whatever it is, all of you carry different things. And I'm here to tell you, he sees you, he knows you, he wants to carry it with you. He's calling you to know him more. Can we all stand? As we sing this song, it's a song that we know well, but I want you to think of the words as a prayer. Think of the words as a prayer today, saying, God, help me to know you. Help me to know and say yes to you. I want to experience your presence, but it's so scary. How do I know I can trust you? How do I know that you hear me? It does take an act of faith. It does take one step in and one step in. You know when you're in the ocean and it's really cold, but you take like one step in and the waves come find you, you're like, oh my God, no. But you go in one step more and one step more. And you acclimate to the cold, you acclimate, and you realize When you're floating in the ocean, you're like, wow, this is beautiful. That's what his presence is like. That's what his love is like. You can't control it. All you can do is say yes to it.